What's going on, guys? Wanted to show you a video on how to make the back of your phone transform from something plain like this into something like this, where you've got it a decal on the backing with it vinyl wrapped and then embossed. Alright, so first things first, we're going to get started by cleaning off the phone here. So I'm going to take just some plain old isopropyl alcohol and a microfiber cloth. I'm going to spray it on the cloth and then wipe it down. And all that does is get rid of any grime and oils and other things that might be on the surface of the phone there. Make sure it's nice and clean. Good surface to work with. Alright, so next you're going to take your decal. I'm going to put this Android, about to take a bite of an Apple decal on here, just for poops and grins. Peel it out. I already pre-cut this on my Cameo, Silhouette Cameo 3. And I'm just going to eyeball putting it on here. Oops. Scoot it over just a little bit more. Like that. Alright. Okay, take my squeegee, smooth it down all over. Different directions. Alright, now peel off slowly so I don't accidentally peel it off. Alright, so there is my decal on it for now. Now what I'm going to do is I have another one. I'm going to put some more underneath of it, just this, it says Droid Life underneath. So I'm going to take my transfer paper that I had, just put it on here. And since I'm going to be doing embossing, it doesn't really matter to me what color the decals are underneath. So kind of the same thing, I'm going to kind of eyeball it here. I'm going to trim off some of this excess so I can see where I'm at the top here. Okay. I'm just going to eyeball it to center it, just like I did before. And I'm going to do like that. Okay, take my squeegee, make sure it's applied firmly and well, and this is why it's also important that you clean off the surface that you're going to apply any decals to, because you want it to adhere well and firmly. So there you go right there. Alright, so I guess you could leave it like that. That's kind of neat with the 4G right in between there. But what I'm going to do is emboss this. Alright, and the color I'm going to use is this, it's Vvivid. It's one of their newer specialty colors. This one's called Poison Purple. It's kind of a two-color one. It's a gloss purple with gold flake in it. So I'm trying to make it so the light hits it and you might see it. You kind of see the gold flake in this. So anyway, I've got a piece cut out already, and it's bigger than, as you can see, bigger than the surface of my my phone there. So all I'm doing, sorry, I forgot to get my heat gun ready here, because you're going to need a heat source to help you out with this. So a couple other tools you're going to need. I have this micro squeegee. We're kind of getting into the fine areas of the phone, and I'm going to show you what I mean by that here. Is once I get the purple vinyl on there, there's some fine gaps right here that I'm going to cut between the camera and the backing and the flash in the backing, and then also these little speaker holes right here. Alright, so take my vinyl and I'm going to go ahead and peel it off the backing paper. Okay. And basically just plop it right on top. Just like that. Alright. Take my squeegee. I'm going to start pressing it down, and you can see some of the embossing happening already. Hopefully you can. I'll bring it up here closer just a second. Let me kind of work this down around the camera portal better. There we go. Okay. And I am using automotive vinyl because it has an air release technology to it. It's removable. It stretches, takes the heat well. Okay, you can see it's already kind of embossing a little bit there. Alright. So, just basically going to press this down, and I'm going to take a little bit of heat here, get my heat gun warmed up. Okay, just going to touch it with a little bit of heat, and all I'm doing is warming it up. I'm not heating it up a lot, just warming it up so that the vinyl is a little bit softer, more pliable. It's kind of cold. I'm down in my basement here, and it's kind of cold down here, so anybody that works with vinyl knows that when it's cold, it becomes more difficult to work with. It's more brittle. It's harder, not as pliable. So I'm just giving it a little bit of heat. I'm just giving it some heat to get around the corners here and the edges, just like that. Okay. Let me take a picture here real quick. Right. Okay. I'm going to do some more heating over here. And all I do is heat, and I'm bringing it over the corners. Heat, bring it over the side, just like that. Heating, bring it over the corners. And the edges, just like that. And just giving it heat to warm it up. I'm not heating it very much at all, just enough to get it warm, enough to get it over the edge. Do that all the way around. Okay. Alright, so I'm going to turn this off here. So you can see I've got it around the edge in the corner. Oops, apparently I turned the phone on. I want to make sure that I have it over there's a seam between the backing and the phone body itself, so I just want to make sure I'm over that seam. And just giving it a very, very light stretch to get over the corners there, that's all. Then what I'm going to do is I'm going to heat it a little bit again to shrink it back down over those corners. Turn this off so you can see it's around those corners nicely. And again, the seam is up here on the edge, and just want to make sure I'm over the edge nicely, and then I'm going to heat it to shrink it back. But first, what I'm going to do is I'll turn this off. Oops, power button's on this side here. Power off, power off. Okay. Alright, what I'm going to start to do now is to do the embossing process. So I'm going to take my cloth, and I'm going to use it to help me press some of the stuff down. And what I'm doing is I'm pressing it down into and around all the different edges of the decals underneath. I'm using the cloth because it kind of squishes and it can conform around the shapes of the decal underneath. So let me show you here. I'm stuck to it. Just by doing that, you can see the embossing has come out even more. So what I'm going to do actually is, to help me so I don't keep sticking to the mat here, I'm going to cut off the excess around the edges. First of all, I'm going to heat the corners so that it shrinks, and basically shrink wraps itself around the corners. If you saw that doing it. So hit that with a little bit of heat. Okay. Hit that with a little heat. Hit that with a little heat. Alright, so basically any shrink back that it's going to do is already done. And now I'm just going to take my knife, and I'm just using this Vvivid utility knife with Olfa 30-degree blades. And I've snapped off a fresh blade so it's sharp. And basically what I want to do before I do that is make sure I find the seam between the body and the panel. And I'm just using my nail to help me find that. I don't know if you can see where I kind of drew that right here. I just used the port to start finding the seam. I'm using this hard edge here with a point to kind of just draw the seam now. Right, and that's where I'm going to be cutting. Okay, all I'm doing is following the seam with the corner of this tool. Let me slide down here so you can see. Sorry. Okay. And like I said, I just found an open port to help me start and find that first seam. And then, again, all I'm doing is kind of using this to draw the line of the seam and the body of the phone. And that will aid in trimming the excess. Okay, now that that's done, take my knife. I'm going to start right here. There's a little gap there. So now, very gently, very lightly, all I'm doing is the very tip of the knife is in that seam, and I'm not putting very much pressure at all in cutting this. Really, all I'm doing is scoring the film, and then what I can do from there is once the film is scored, I can just peel it apart carefully. Get the tip of my knife back into that seam. Okay, take your time doing this so the blade doesn't jump out. Okay, that's the charging port right there. So I'm going to cut through. Careful not to go too deep into that. You don't want to cut any of the components in there. Continue to the other side here. Okay, make sure I stay in the seam there. And again, very light pressure. I'm not even really pushing on the knife itself. I'm just, really all I'm doing is the weight of the knife and the weight of my hand basically is the only pressure that is really going on or pushing down on this. Okay. Just following this all the way around. This phone still has a headphone jack. So I'm in that port now, if you will. Okay, and I'm back to where I started right there. Alright, now carefully what I'm going to do is start to peel this apart. I'm going to hold this down in case I didn't cut all the way through and it doesn't pull up where I don't want it to pull up. Okay, and you can see now all I'm doing is peeling this off. See, I didn't cut all the way through there, so I got to be careful not to rip that. And so I'm going to take this, put it back on the seam, and and just trim through, just like that. Perfect. All right, again, take your time. Don't rush this, because if I had just pulled it right off, I would have pulled, and that wasn't cut all the way through, I would have pulled the whole corner off there. So what I'm doing is I'm holding in the area where I'm starting to pull the vinyl off. Okay. All right. There we go. So now it's got a nice poison purple backing. Almost done. Take another picture here. Okay. All right. So while I'm at it here, I'm just going to trim out the rest of this port here. Now it's important that your knife is very sharp so that it will easily cut through the vinyl and you're not pushing on it or dragging it or pulling on it, otherwise it gets all kind of nasty. Okay. Just trimming this up with some fine detail work here. Alright, so now I gotta come back at it. All I'm doing is trimming the excess vinyl away. Okay. Just looking around for the rest of it. Alright, what I'm going to do now is I'm going to continue on with embossing here. So I'm going to give it a little bit of heat. Now since this is electronics, you want to be careful. So I'm using low setting on the heat gun. Just giving it a heat to warm up the vinyl a little bit. And then I'm going to press it in as best I can with this. And if I see any bubbles, I can pop those out. That's not a problem. And I'm going to take another micro squeegee here, and I'm going to kind of trace out everything. Alright, so I got a little bubble right there, so I'm going to poke just a tiny little hole right there. And then when I give it some heat, it should just heat right out, or it'll release the air that's trapped in there. There we go. Alright, so now I'm just going to continue to do this for the rest of it. So boom, traced it a little bit more. Now I'm going to heat the Android image a little bit here and start doing the same thing. Air pockets that are coming out. Just happened. This is not a Christmas. This is not a Christmas song. This is not a Christmas. This is not a Christmas song. This is not a Christmas. This is not a Christmas song. This is not a Christmas. This is not a Christmas song. My neighbors compete to see who can put up more blinding lights. The kids all wish away the month 'cause they want presents in sight. This year had me so mad. I've been is practically done. Alright. So what I'm going to do next is make the cutouts for the camera, the flash, and then the little speakers back there. So give it a little heat first, kind of like embossing. I'm going to soften the vinyl. I'm going to press and squeegee it around so that make sure it's laid down well. And I can find my lines that I'm going to cut or trim very, very carefully, because now I'm getting into some sensitive areas like a camera, the glass of the camera here. Alright, so now I'm going to take my squeegee. I'm going to, on the camera lens, there's a small gap between the lens and the body of the phone. So I'm just basically tracing that out with my micro squeegee here. But basically anything that has kind of a point or a tip you can use. Alright. Now that that's traced out, I'm going to take my knife and again very carefully just get the tip into the seam there and trim slowly with just the weight. You don't have to press very hard. I'm trying to really just score the film. Okay. I'm going to carefully try to pick it up. There. There we go. Just like that. Take a picture. Alright. So got some dirt or something right there. Or is that just a little air bubble? It might just be an air bubble. Alright. Sorry, I got distracted there. Squirrel. Alright. So I'm going to soften this again a little bit more. Give it some heat. That allows me to find my line a little better, if you will, here. We're going to be tracing the body of the phone and the flash, or the LED for the flash. Okay. And again, just carefully find a place to start, maybe down here. And I have just the tip of the blade just inside the gap where the LED flash and the body casing are, or is. I'm not sure what the correct language is there. Okay. Carefully, I didn't even cut through that area there, so let me try this again here. So I'm barely putting any pressure, so I'm just trying to score the film. So I can tell I didn't cut that area either. Around the edge here. So let's do like that. Lift it up. There we go. Okay. So now the flash is there. Okay, please give it a little heat just to make sure everything is good. So that, go over my embossing again just because I got it here. Alright, now to trim out these little speaker holes here. Sorry, I don't know if you can see me doing that or not. There's a little bar kind of right in the middle of the speaker hole that I'm trying to get around and through, and then get the edges here. Again, having a very sharp knife that's been freshly snapped off, in this case for because it's a utility type of knife. Is important to get those very small, very fine details there. So let me get that if I can. Alright, so that's one of the little holes there. Do the same thing on this one here. Alright, almost there. It's got this little piece right there to trim, if I can. Alright, so basically I got that there. Will it focus? Alright, give it just a touch of heat and see if it'll shrink anything back. Alrighty, and there you have it, guys. Zoom back out. So we got a vinyl decal'd and wrapped and embossed foam personalization. So hopefully you found this video to be informative and interesting. If you liked it, please give it a thumbs up and then hit that subscribe button. That way, and the little bell button that shows up when you hit subscribe, so that you get notifications whenever